Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? For your level in town. Renegade.
Hi, I'm Michael Homula, and thanks for hanging out with us again here at Pulling the Cork. Today on PTC TV, we're talking about what you smell and how you smell it. If you recall, in the first part of our series, we talked about the purpose of writing a tasting note and how to get started. In the second part of the series, we talked about what you see and how to see it. Today, logically, we're talking about what you smell and how you smell it. So let's get into it. Smelling a wine is the most important step in a wine tasting and writing a great wine tasting note. So you probably need to spend the vast majority of your tasting time here on this step. It is through the aroma of wine that wine is actually tasted. Since our tongues are rather crude and not very good instruments for getting aroma and flavor, our sense of smell is really the key. Our tongues are really only good for assessing bitterness, sweetness, saltiness, and acidity. That's it. So our sense of smell is really critical here. Since wine is perhaps the most aromatically complex food that we enjoy, a single wine can have many aromas. The huge variety and complexity of aromas in wine are only perceptible because of our highly sensitized sense of smell. The first thing we need to talk about is the difference between aroma and bouquet. Aroma and bouquet are often confused and lumped together when most people talk about what a wine smells like. But there is a difference. Aroma is the smells that come directly from the grapes themselves. These are most often fruit and berry aromas that you get. All of those things are directly from the grape and are considered aroma. So anything fruit and berry should be considered aroma. Bouquet comes from the fermentation, the barrel aging or the bottle aging process with the wine. Wood and spice notes are most often associated with bouquet. When you smell a wine, or nose it as many might say, you're trying to identify two components: aroma intensity and aroma identity. Before we get into that, let's first talk about the technique you can use to smell a wine or nose a wine. Wine aromas come from fragrant chemical compounds that are actually in the wine. To release these chemical compounds, you need to swirl and aerate the wine. Swirling it aerates the wine and basically creates more surface area and accelerates the evaporation of the alcohol. As the alcohol in the wine begins to evaporate, it lifts up the fragrant chemical compounds inside the bowl of your wine glass, and that gives you the opportunity to smell them. So let's demonstrate. The first thing that you want to do is swirl and aerate the wine inside of the glass to lift the aromas into the air. Then you want to place your nose down into the bowl of the glass and take a quick sniff or two and then put the glass down. The first thing you want to do is observe how intense are the aromas of the wine. Basically, how powerful or faint is the aroma. Don't try to identify the aromas at first. Just try to identify the power question. How powerful or intense are the aromas in the wine? Now that you've determined the intensity of the aroma, you need to try to identify the specific aroma and bouquet elements in your wine. You're going to start off doing the exact same thing. You want to go ahead and swirl the wine and aerate it, let the alcohol lift the fragrant compounds of the wine up into the bowl of the glass, and then go ahead and take a sniff or two. What I like to do is not immediately start trying to identify what I smell. I like to kind of let a picture, a mental picture of the aromas start to form up in my mind. I don't really try to force it, and neither should you. What you want to do is let the aroma and the bouquet elements of the wine come to you. So form that picture up in your mind, and then once you start to identify what you're smelling, go ahead and write it down for your tasting note. Remember, you can just identify general categories here. You don't have to necessarily get it down to a specific identity. It's very fair, for example, to say there's lots of dark berries or dark fruits in a wine and not get as specific as saying there's blackberry or dark cherry. Of course, if you can definitely tell it's a blackberry smell or a dark cherry smell, go ahead and write that down. But if all you can get is the general category, that's okay, because that might be all that the wine is actually giving off. Now let's walk through this whole process one more time, because as we said, this is probably the most important part of wine tasting and writing your wine tasting note, because your sense of smell is really the most strong thing that you have. Your tongue is not really the best instrument. So let's start again. We're going to swirl and aerate and give it a sniff for intensity. Once we identify whether or not it's strong or really powerful, or if it's faint in intensity, we'll write that down for our tasting note. Then we'll come back, swirl and aerate again, stick our nose down in the bowl, take a couple deep sniffs, and then go ahead and let that mental picture of what you're smelling start to form up. This is really something that takes a lot of practice. Don't get frustrated if you're not able to identify aromas right away, or if this doesn't come easy to you. Keep practicing and smelling lots of wine. The more wine you smell and taste, the better you'll become at identifying aroma and bouquet. It can take many years of smelling and tasting wine to really train your nose and train your palate and gain the experience that you need. But hey, you're tasting and getting to smell a lot of great wine along the way. If wine is made from grapes, how can it smell like apples or strawberries or flowers or all the other stuff that I write about in a tasting note or that you read from wine critics? This is kind of a complex topic with some rather intricate chemistry involving esters and all of these other things that I really don't want to get into, and it'll probably just take you back to your high school chemistry class, so we want to avoid that. But I'm going to try to give you a simple answer. Basically, if you smell strawberries or apples or grapefruit or black cherry in your wine, it's because the same chemical compounds that are found in those fruits are also found in your wine. It doesn't mean that there was apples or strawberries put in your wine. It just means that basically the same DNA or the same chemical makeup that's found in those fruits is also present in your wine. Okay, so that's it. That's what you smell and how to smell it. Now there's some other subtle nuances to this, and there's a lot more information that you can find around the internet about this, but this was just a basic breakdown of what you smell and how to smell it. So, let's summarize. The first thing you want to think about is that the aroma of your wine and your nasal passages are really the most important tool that you have in identifying the flavor profile of the wine as well. Your tongue is not the best instrument. Now, when you first go after trying to smell your wine, there's two things that you're looking to do. You want to identify the intensity of the aroma, and then you want to identify the actual aroma identity itself. Those are the two most important things. Remember, practice makes perfect here. Don't expect to be an expert right out of the gate. It's going to take a lot of smelling and a lot of tasting of wine for you to get really good at this and train your nose and your palate for what they're smelling. But hey, that's kind of the fun of it, really, getting to taste and smell a lot of wine. Now, in case you're wondering about the shirt, yeah, I'm a Notre Dame fan. And with college football right around the corner, I'm pretty excited about the prospects for the Irish this season. So go Irish. Thanks again for joining us today on PTC TV. Join us next time when we're going to talk about what you taste and how to taste it. Until then, cheers. 3 minutes and we're out of here. The clock is